Pokemon Go turns 10 years old this year. And honestly, that's wild. Since launching in 2016, the game has racked up over 1 billion downloads, generated billions in revenue, and has become one of the most successful mobile games of all time. But while Pokemon has always been known for its official strategy guides, I started wondering, were there any guidebooks for Pokemon Go? That question led me on a search. And I found on Spotify the ultimate unofficial guide to Pokemon Go from 2016. So, to celebrate Pokemon Go's 10th anniversary, I thought it would be fun to look back at what players were being taught in the game's early days and compare it to the Pokemon Go we know today. If that sounds interesting, please make sure you hit the like button and subscribe, because with GoFest just around the corner, there'll be plenty more of Pokemon Go content coming at ya. The guide starts, first of all, with an introduction that talks about the phenomenon of Pokemon Go in 2016. It covers the excitement, the hype, those early days when everyone that you knew was playing. My memory of that time, though, was a little fuzzy. Thankfully, we've got Facebook here to remind us what I was up to in 2016. It was a huge year overall. I completed my first half marathon at Disney World, appeared on television.
Hi, I'm Dale, and I am studying Business, Marketing and HR here at JTU Cairns.
And in my local newspaper. And on July 6th, 2016, I made a very important Facebook post. Pokemon Go is a go. Like many players, I chose Squirtle as my starter because Pokemon Blue was the first Pokemon game I ever played. I spent those first few weeks completely hooked, showing my friends every interesting Pokemon I found, exploring my local area in a whole new way. Unfortunately, I haven't really kept many of those catches, but I still do have this Arcanine that I caught on July 11th, 2016. Somehow, some way, it survived with me throughout all those years. Pokemon Go was a massive social experience back then. I was part of a gaming group at my university. Everyone was sharing tips, finding nests, and learning about the game together. It really felt like the digital and real worlds were colliding in a way. I played regularly in 2016 to 2018 before my life got hectic and I decided to work at Disney World in 2018 and then Disney Cruise Line, and of course Cruise Line doesn't really have like internet as such. I kind of had to drop off, and I'm better for it because on Disney Cruise Line I met my now husband, so it all works out. When I returned home, however, in 2020, some of my co-workers convinced me to start playing again, and that's when I really started to discover the Pokemon Go community again. Since then, I've met some incredible people, started making Pokemon Go videos here on YouTube, and attended events such as GoFest in Adelaide, and then moving to Sydney in 2025, and I even met the Pokemon Go GOAT himself, Fleece King, at Sydney's first ever Pokemon City Safari. Pokemon Go has been a part of my life for almost 10 years now, and it's amazing to think about how both the game and the community have changed during that time. But enough about my journey. You're here to see how 2016 compares to now. The first chapter breaks down the original Pokemon Go app description from 2016, and honestly, it's interesting how little the core concept has changed. Sure, the wording has become a lot more vague over the years, but the message is still the same. Pokemon in the real world. Even back then, the description highlighted some of the game's main features, like catching Pokemon, spinning Pokestops, battling in gyms, and hatching eggs. It specifically called out finding Pokestops in places like museums, which sounds like a strange flex, but okay. It also leaned heavily into the idea of augmented reality and getting players outside and exploring, which is a huge part of the game's identity to this day. This chapter also covers the very early history of the game and its developer, Niantic. Well, developer at the time, as Niantic no longer owns Pokemon Go. The gaming aspect has been sold to a company called Scopely in a multi-billion-dollar deal, which is quite the journey for a game that started as a mobile experiment inspired by Google's April Fool's Day joke. The guide also defines what it is to win Pokemon Go, and some of the goals are kind of funny to look back on. First, it says to earn as much XP as quickly as possible. Honestly, not much has changed there. The top players are still chasing XP records to this day. Second, reach level 40. Back in 2016, that was the level cap, and it was a huge achievement. These days, the level cap is now 80, and the amount of XP required absolutely dwarfs what players needed back then. The guide also recommends getting 28 gold medals. 28. Now it's around 70 in the game, and platinum medals weren't even a thing when this guide was written. Another goal was to max out the CP of every single Pokemon. Even in 2016, that sounded ambiguous. In 2026, with well over 900 Pokemon available, that sounds completely impossible. And finally, it suggests taking over every single gym in your local area. Interestingly, while the whole gym system looks different these days than what it did back then, the cap is still set at 50 Pokecoins per day. The chapter finishes with some general safety tips before heading out on your Pokemon adventure. Things like watching where you're walking, staying out of private property, paying attention to your surroundings, common sense that isn't really that common. Hey, it was the summer of 2016 and we were all excited about a Dragonite that was spawning on the Santa Monica Pier. We've all been there. Not me, but anyway. The battery advice given in the guide is still the funniest to me because it's the most painfully relevant today. Using Pokemon GO's power saving mode, enabling low power mode on your phone, turning off AR when you don't use it are all still things that can save you battery life to this day. I've been caught out a few times for not having a fully charged power bank, and I've had to run into a news agency and spend $30 on a power bank that I didn't need to use after the fact. Again, we've all been there. And the final warning is to keep eye on your mobile use data. It's funny because now we've got larger phone plans we have to worry about this, but it's still good advice. Overall, it's funny how Pokemon GO has evolved in the last decade, but it's equally as funny of how much the original advice still holds to this day. With all that out of the way, you're finally ready to begin your Pokemon GO adventure. Well, almost. The guide says that you should go to the App Store, download Pokemon GO, and apparently in 2016 there was a lot of knockoff apps floating around. That's not so much of an issue now. And it feels weird that they listed the amount of devices that it was not compatible with, whereas these days you can pretty much play it on any smart device with a screen that you can. Once you have the game installed, you can create an account, and apparently the hardcore player used to do Pokemon Club, and it constantly reminds us through this chapter that Pokemon GO requires an internet connection. Groundbreaking stuff. After logging in, you're greeted by our favourite NPC, Professor Willow, who guides you through several pages of introducing himself for some reason. To save you some time, Professor Willow basically is the game's quest driver. Think Professor Oak back in the old days. Also, can give you one candy when you transfer a Pokemon to him. No one's really explained how or why. Next comes creating your trainer name and avatar. The guide suggests things like your favorite color, your food, or hobby for inspiration. Interestingly, trainer names are still heavily restricted to this day, although avatar customization has expanded significantly. The guide walks you through the user interface, and honestly, not much has changed. Your trainer profile, the Pokeball menu, the nearby Pokemon tracker are still in the same locations. One feature that I completely forgot about to this day that no longer exists is the tips section. Where did that go? And it's interesting because we look at the shop and it talks about the defender bonus in the old gym section. Don't worry. We'll get to gyms a little bit later on. The chapter finishes with some troubleshooting advice, and honestly, the solutions are pretty much the same in 2016 as they were back then. If your game's not loading, check your internet, restart, and if all else fails, try again later. Guys, it's the time we've all been waiting for to pick your starter Pokemon. The guide outlines that the starter choice is not as important as it is in other handheld games, because you could just catch a more powerful one later on. After everyone's favourite NPC, Professor Willow, has introduced you to the wonderful world of Pokemon, you can Alrighty, we have some fine choices of Pokemon here, but apparently, according to the guide, we can not catch any of these if we walk away from them 5 times. We will encounter a Pikachu. So, let's see if that still works in 2026. We're going to just walk the opposite direction to these guys and see if they respawn. So this is round 2. They just hit the refresh on them. So we'll see. That's number 2. We'll see if this is still true. Hey, that rhymed. 2 and true rhyme, apparently, in my world. Feels weird walking away from Pokemon like this. But we do it for Pokemon GO science. Oh, so that's refresh number 3. Refresh number 4. We're getting there. Already. Let's see it. Pikachu. Hey, there it is. We absolutely can get it in 2026. The Pikachu starter in 2026 is kind of crazy. Can't land the excellent throw to save our entire existence. But here we are. Gotcha. Pikachu in the Pokedex in 2026 is kind of absurd. Here we go. Here it is. Oh, it's CP12. Congratulations, it's your first ever Pokemon. I'm so excited. I don't know why I'm excited. I've caught thousands upon thousands of Pikachus, but this one holds a special place in my heart. So you can indeed get Pikachu as your starter in 2026. You just have to walk for a long time. Wow! We've just arrived at our first Pokestop. Unsurprisingly, they function exactly the same as they do today in 2016. You spin the disc, you wait 5 minutes, you spin again. Next, we have some catching tips. Largely the same. You click on a Pokemon you wish to catch, click on the Pokeball, and flick it towards the Pokemon. The different color rings tell you the difficulty of catching the Pokemon. The guide says to aim for the Pokemon's head. That's not necessarily true these days, as you want to try and aim for the middle of the smallest part of the ring. The guide then goes on to explain the different catches, nice, great, and excellent throws, while the XP amounts are slightly different than what the guide suggests, adjusted for inflation. Remember, there's twice as many levels these days as they were back then. The guide also mentions the change of types of balls, plus the power-ups, which essentially these days are berries. You can tap on these berries and they never miss, which is an odd thing to point out, but okay. They outline the different types of berries and Pokeballs, which still have not changed to this day. And other items they mention are lucky eggs, which still perform the same today, doubling the amount of XP gained for 30 minutes for all activities. The guide suggests waiting for Pokemon to stop jumping around before you try and catch it. The guide also outlines that the berries only last for 1 turn, which is true to this day. Save the berries for the harder Pokemon and camp at your local Pokestop to stockpile valuable items. The guide also claims an hour of exercise can build up 100 items. And we're going to put that to the test today. We are currently at 2,515 items. We've got 1 hour. It is 9:02 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So that means nothing. So we're going to play in my local neighborhood. I want it to be as authentic as possible. Like, I could go like 10 minutes down the road and have a million Pokestops, but I want to make it as authentic as I possibly can. So let's see if we can get 100 items in 1 hour, starting with a Pokestop streak. So there we go. Alright, so it's been 15 minutes and I've walked half of my like normal neighborhood route, and I did the calculation and we have 2563, which is 48 items, or 46. It's 48. So we're halfway there and it's only been 15 minutes. So I think we should get it within the next loop. Crazy, but there is 11 Pokestops on this route. So if we get it on this next one, and I have overtaken this gym, which definitely will help give more items. 13, it's about 25, 26 Pokestops to obtain the 100 items, potentially. We'll see how this next round goes, and we'll clear you in. We're back home now, and I do apologize. The sun is in such an awkward spot. Hey, there we go. Look at this. We did it. Oh, and my buddy had the candy. We did it in... Booyah. Look how satisfying that is. Holy moo cow. 30 minutes. We hit 25 Pokestops. Now, keep in mind that 3 of them were gyms with team bonuses. So that may not always happen to you guys, but definitely possible, I believe, to this day, that getting 100 items in 1 hour is definitely doable if you spin maybe 30 to 35 Pokestops. We were unlucky and did get 2 Rocket Grunts along the way as well. So that counteracted some of the items being delivered. But all in all, 100% still doable. Next up, the guide outlines where to find the best stuff. Whatever that's supposed to mean. Personally, I find this stuff boring, so we're going to make this as painless as possible. But basically, Ingress, which is the game created by Niantic, which was sort of the predecessor to Pokemon GO in a way, has put AR in the real world, and this is where Pokemon GO pulls their data from mostly. The guide outlines a trip to a tourist town, or places like America and London, but I don't have that sort of budget. But I have been to some cool places around Sydney. That's pretty neat. Actually, they mentioned Disney World, and I have been to Disney World, and it is a good spot for Pokemon GO. The guide mentioned that Pokemon GO brings people together that would not likely bring people together. I can absolutely attest to this. I have made some amazing friends that I could not have normally encountered in my everyday life. With resources like Campfire now, it has been a game changer finding local communities to play with. The guide suggests using the nearby feature to seek different Pokemon in a particular area. Back in the day, it used to show you the direction of the Pokemon. Now, if you click on it, it will show you which Pokestop it's near, which is kind of cool. At the game's launch, there was also a rustling grass feature for hidden Pokemon, which that doesn't seem to be a thing. But it's an interesting game mechanic if they ever wanted to bring it back. The guide also suggests the good old-fashioned stampedes that used to occur. These have been replaced by more civil arrangements, like a raid train, for example. Asking people who look like they know what they're doing, or players in a group chat like Discord calling out specific Pokemon spawns like 100% IV spawns also help level up the gameplay. Another way of attracting Pokemon is through incense. At the game's launch, there was only one type of incense, the good old-fashioned green, sometimes orange at special events now, but now there's a few more. Now with a daily adventure incense, a special 15 to 30 minute free one-time use daily incense that spawn different Pokemon and sometimes the Galarian version of the Kanto legendary birds. And there are such things on particular Pokemon called adventure effects, and both forms of the fused Necrozmas, Dawnwings and Dustmane, act like an incense. Despite the different type of incense, they all relatively function the same as they used to. Move more, get more. Next is lure modules. Place on a Pokestop and watch the Pokemon spawn. The guide suggests it's best used if you're staying in a stationary location for 30 minutes. The main difference between the lure module is everyone benefits, whereas incense, it's just you. The book also mentions that these require purchasing, but now you can earn them through winning either Pokemon showcases or through doing special research. The guide also mentions auto catchers as well. We've come a long way when it comes to auto catchers, from a little wrist strap to this good old-fashioned thing that I have, the Pokeball Plus. Then we got the Pokemon Plus Plus, which is a little like round disc thing that automatically catches Pokemon, and you can do great and Ultra Balls in it as well. Unfortunately, that has been discontinued, but there may be exciting news on the way for an in-game auto catcher to replace it. The guide also mentions eggs as a way to obtain Pokemon. These can be attained via spinning Pokestops or gyms, and they function the same way as they did back in the day. You have Infinite Incubator, a one-time use incubator, and a Super Incubator. Super Incubators just reduce the distance, and they have 3 uses per incubator. At launch, there were 2, 5, 10 kilometer eggs, but now we have the new daily 1 kilometer egg, which also on hatch gets you 10,000 XP, 7 kilometer eggs, and 12 kilometer eggs. There is also an adventure sync feature these days, which has made life a lot easier because you don't have to have the game open in order for your steps to count towards these eggs. Originally, there were 9 egg slots, which is kind of still true to this day. The 1 kilometer egg doesn't count towards your egg storage, and there are 3 bonus spots that you can put either a 12 kilometer egg or your adventure sync reward eggs. If you walk over 25 kilometers, you'll get a 5 kilometer egg, and if you walk over 50 kilometers in a week, you'll get a 10 kilometer egg, which can go into this spot. Pokemon back in the day can be found in different biomes. These days, they're slightly different, but now these biomes are cities, beaches, mountains, and forests, as opposed to like specific buildings like museums and grass, for example, like they were back in 2016. Fun fact, according to the guide, dark types were not available at the game's launch in the wild. Also, Kanto was the only Pokedex available with no legendary Pokemon and no Ditto at launch. How the times have changed. The guide then lists out the different types, and I'm not going to bore you with those details. Interestingly, however, they did mention the regional Pokemon that were available at that point in 5 kilometer eggs, which is no longer a thing. Sure, regional Pokemon, like Pokemon that spawn in specific regions, can come out globally for events, but again, they're no longer available in those 5 kilometer eggs. Upon listening to the original Pokemon that were available in the wild, I think a rebalance of the biomes was a good thing, because now it's less about trying to keep track where you are and more about the type of environment that they're in. Remember, back in 2016, there were 17 different locations where Pokemon could spawn, and now you only have to worry about 4. For example, what's a mud location supposed to mean? Next up, the guide outlines some health benefits of Pokemon Go, which still exist to this day. Walking to hatch your eggs, for example, you get a reward when you hatch your egg, and you're required to walk around for a certain amount of time to obtain that quote-unquote prize. You also can explore your neighborhood and find hidden gems that you may not have been able to find before. Exploring on vacation is also another way to discover different places that you may not have been previously aware of. Outside of meeting new people, as mentioned earlier, the guide mentions it means more family time when you play Pokemon. For example, families that are in parks or go on walks together have something that they can now share a common ground with each other. The guide, however, does also do a good job outlining some of the lack of accessibility options, particularly around vision impaired players, which is sort of true to this day. There is a screen reader feature, but I did test it, but it didn't really do anything. Next up, the guide talks about the art of evolution, which is a huge Pokemon mechanic, both in Pokemon Go and in the main series games. The example they give is Weedle. Weedle is the base form Pokemon that can evolve after 12 Weedle candy, and then after 50 candy into its final form of Beedrill, which is much stronger than Weedle and more useful. Sorry, Weedle. The guide also outlines the candy system here, which is kind of important. Basically, you either catch or hatch a particular Pokemon, and you get candy to evolve or power up these Pokemon. The guide outlines that you should power up your base form Pokemon, for example your Weedle, before you evolve it, because it is cheaper in candy and Stardust, as opposed to powering up the fully evolved form of that Pokemon. Oh, and don't forget, you can also exchange your unwanted Pokemon to everyone's favorite NPC, Professor Willow, in exchange for 1 candy. Sometimes 2 during special events. This also helps you gather candies to evolve your Pokemon to the next stage. You can get stronger Pokemon by catching a lower level Pokemon and grinding candy that way as well through mass transferring. The amount of XP that the guide outlines has changed since the early days. Now it's 1000 for an evolution and 1000 XP for a new entry into the Pokedex. You can also use an earlier tip to use a lucky egg while mass evolving to get the most out of your XP gains. Oh my god, and don't even get me started on the whole Eevee fiasco. Eevee is crazy for its evolutions. At the game's launch, there was only 3 evolutions available. They were literally random. Or were they? There was a nickname trick that you could use, and I'll try and find, I can flash something on screen about all the different nicknames that you could use for Eevee. But remember, these are one-time use. Oh, and before I forget, trade evolutions weren't a thing yet at the game's launch, which is a huge feature for evolving Pokemon these days. So you can either evolve it for a set amount of candies, or if you receive it from a trade, you can evolve it for free. But this is on a certain amount of Pokemon, so check your Pokemon before you evolve it. Now it's finally time to pick your team. At level 5, our favourite NPC, Professor Willow, will make another appearance and will force you to pick a team. Team Instinct, Valor, or Mystic. Yellow, red, or blue, essentially. Spark is for Team Instinct, Blanche is for Team Mystic, and Candela is for Team Valor. The team you pick will stick with you for the most part. This is the team that you'll use to take on gym battles and place your Pokemon at gyms with your fellow teammates. Fun fact, at the game's launch, you could not change your team. However, these days, you can purchase a team medallion from the in-game shop for 1,000 Pokecoins, which will give you the ability to change your team at any point you want. Guide goes on about describing the different teams, which will save you the hassle. But if you're curious, just Google it. But I'll save you the time and basically not bore you with the details. The decision I personally made was based off the gyms that were lacking in my area, which was why I picked Team Valor back in the day. Now it's time for arguably the biggest change since the game's launch, and that is the gym system. 2 things, though, have not changed, which I thought I'd point out. The gym is easily identified of which team occupies it, so it appears on the map as one big pillar thing. Then the amount of maximum coins that you can get remains at 50, capped at 50 per time the Pokemon returns to you. It's 8 hours and 20 minutes technically. Unclaimed gyms still appear as white, so that's something that hasn't remained changed. There used to be, though, a defender bonus, as I mentioned earlier, which is an extra bonus that you get after 21 hours where you get 10 Pokecoins and 500 Stardust. This no longer exists. You used to be able to train your Pokemon at a friendly gym. Now, that is not the case. And throw to past Dale to explain how the new gym system works.
I have a gym here that I wish to take down. It does look a little different in 2026 than it did in 2016. To battle the rival gym, I'll just hit this icon here. It does recommend some Pokemon here. I oftentimes just do the recommended battle party. Sometimes if it's a full gym and I'm trying to take it on, I will review it, but oftentimes it does give you Pokemon that they think that it would be better suited. You just tap for your fast attack, and then as soon as this bottom icon has lit up, you can tap it to do the charge attack, and then you do that and it just knocks down the CP down. Depends on how long the Pokemon has been inside of the gym, but it can take up to 3 attempts to fully knock out a Pokemon. You can see here below the charge attack as well, you can see if it is super effective or in turn not very effective for the Pokemon. And then the little log on the side, see, this one didn't knock down all the way, so I'm going to have to take this gym on again to fully overtake the gym. And it gives you this little victory screen as well, saying that you defeated the gym. It will turn white like this. You can hit the plus icon to add your favorite thing, your Pokemon of choice. Do you wish to leave Magikarp? It will return to you once it's no longer defended. Yes. If you are planning to spin a Pokestop, do it after you take it over, because you get team bonus items as well to be on your way. And that's how battling gyms work in 2026. So if I've got a gym here that is also of my team here, I am Team Valor, for the record, I have some Pokemon in here, and I'm in here too. See, look at me. I can feed it berries to help increase the amount of sort of CP that it is, and it'll help defend the gym for longer. Up in the right hand corner, you can see you can feed it regular berries for it to charge a little bit. Of course, this is it charged max because it's only been in for 6 hours, so it hasn't had that much time to sort of degrade in CP as much. But you can see here, this person's already been in for 30 minutes. If you give them a raspberry, golden raspberry, it will charge it up to full no matter what the status is. I feel kind of bad. I'm gonna feed you other berries because I feel bad, because why give them one and me myself 10? This won't take long. As you can see up in the right corner as well, you can earn Stardust, and you'll see when we exit out, you can get XP as well. Don't know if it's likely to happen here, but you can also get a chance of that Pokemon's candy as well. So you can get a slack off candy from this, but I don't think we'll be that lucky in today's session. No, not lucky at all. So I have 570 Stardust and 1500. Oh, 1500. That's a bit much. XP from that little feeding berries, and it's a medal that you can work on for your platinum medal collection as well.
Oh, another thing too is I forgot to mention that it's still the case that the Pokemon returns to you fainted, so you'll have to revive it and give it potions if applicable in order for you to use it in battle again. This also goes for raiding, which wasn't a feature back then but is now. So if you want to reuse the Pokemon, you have to revive it and heal it before you use it again. The gym system used to be run off a prestige point system, so it basically now runs off the Pokemon and their combat power as opposed to a points-based system. Adding a Pokemon to the gym, though, process hasn't changed either. The guide then goes on a big, massive spiel about type effectiveness. Again, Google is your friend here. But basically, it works the same now as it did back then, except they changed the names slightly of the moves. There is now a fast attack and a charge attack. The fast attack powers up the charge attack meter in order for you to deliver one big attack to an enemy Pokemon. The same Pokemon can learn different move sets, which also makes battling fun. So, like, a Pokemon may learn a different type of move that you may not think is super effective against it, but can also deal super effective damage. Dodging to swipe an attack in a gym battle and in raiding works the same. You just swipe across the screen at a particular point in time to dodge the enemy's charge attack. Finally, the guide portrays the Pokemon detail screen in detail. Let's use our 2016 Arcanine here as an example to see if anything has changed. At the top, it shows the CP of the Pokemon. Currently, it's 2,719. There is a progress bar to show how much is left to power up. Below it's its name, which you can change. How neat is that? Next, it shows the HP. Then it shows its typing, weight, and height. There are some larger and some smaller Pokemon, and these can be noted with the XL or XXL or XS and XXS icons. Next up is the power up and evolve buttons. Note the evolve button is not available on this Arcanine because it is its final form. The power up functions the same, however, showing the amount of candy and Stardust required to move it to the next stage. One thing that's different since the game's launch is now that you can see the moves that the Pokemon has. This Arcanine has Fire Fang for its fast attack and Fire Blast for its charge attack. And you can add another charge attack under that for more candy. The 3 lines in the bottom corner show different options for the Pokemon. The biggest change is now that you can appraise the Pokemon and it shows you the exact stats of the Pokemon to see if it's worth keeping or not. It used to be some weird cryptic message, but now it literally just tells you the 3 stats that you need to know. The guide also goes through how to heal Pokemon, and it basically functions the same way. You click the bag icon, you select Revive, if there are any fainted. Then you can go back and select different types of potions to heal them up to full. Note, only the injured Pokemon will appear here. A recently added feature is that you can now select Heal All as opposed to hitting the Pokemon individually, which has been a huge time saver, particularly if you're in a rush to continue battling. While the game has added a lot of new features since its launch, for example, Go Rocket Grunts and Leaders, Mega Evolution, Raid Battles, Dynamax Battles, Field Research, PvP, and the Battle Pass, Postcards, Adventure Effects, the Buddy System, and amongst many others, it's fascinating to compare 2026 gameplay to the core game of 2016 and how much and how little the game has functionally changed over the years. The core mechanics of catching, spinning Pokestops, and hatching eggs has remained the same, whereas the gym mechanics have completely changed. I wonder if anyone will ever come out with an updated unofficial guide to include all of these updates. Who knows? Nevertheless, congratulations to Pokemon Go for 10 years of gameplay and all the fun memories that you have brought along the way. Tips for leveling up here are similar in the outro as they were back in the day. 1. Catch the most amount of Pokemon. Use incense and lure modules by walking and hatching eggs. 2. Shrink the catch ring size to land a skill throw. 3. Catch a Pokemon you haven't caught before. Sadly, there's no really new Pokemon out at the moment, but hey, if you haven't played in a while, everything is new, right? Even the XP gains have increased for new Pokedex intros since the game's launched. Spinning Pokestops over and over and over again. This can be effective, but you do have a 5-minute cooldown between stops, so that could be a little annoying if you haven't got many stops around you. Catch a bunch of easy Pokemon for mass evolving and lucky egg strategies. Use Yelp. Actually, Yelp isn't really useful for this thing, but we have services like Campfire and Discord for this now. Use lucky eggs to double up your XP when doing lots of in-game activities. Visit cities and or tourist attractions to have more opportunities to spin Pokestops and catch Pokemon. Place eggs in incubators. Make curveball throws for more experience. Train at a gym for experience, although that's not really a thing, but that has been kind of replaced with feeding gyms berries. And join local groups. And, well, the golden rule that the guide doesn't really want to talk about, but I will put here, is have fun. Again, Pokemon Go is a video game at the end of the day. It's a game of luck. And if you have fun with it, that's all that really matters, right? If you enjoyed this different style of video than what I'm used to making, please do consider smashing the like button and subscribe buttons. It would mean a whole bunch to me. This has been a bunch of work. It's been months in the making this video. So I've had a blast putting it together, and hopefully you've had a blast watching it as well. With Go Fest just around the corner, I'm sure there's going to be more Pokemon Go content surrounding that. Finally, I've been Dale Segev, coming at ya, and we'll see you next time. Good damn, bye!